Hello Internet, I am Firebolt.
And I'm the Orbiter.
And welcome to Breaking Bollocks, episode 14. Do we have any... What?
Is it 14?
It's 14.
Is it?
We seem surprised by the episode number in every episode.
I don't remember a 13.
That was morality.
Was it? Okay.
Anyway. Any follow-up?
Well, there was going to be a little bit of follow-up, which I was thinking might have resolved itself by the time this went out on air, but it's actually resolved itself today. It was kind of linked to today's topic, but also our drugs episode. There was a thing that came out on the news this morning that a boy with severe epilepsy had come back from America where he had medicinal cannabis oil, which I think is not the same as the cannabis oil that we mentioned in our drugs talk. The stuff that they get in America apparently has more of the psychoactive component in it. So and it's the only thing that worked for this kid.
Right.
And Customs took it off him on his way in. He's 12. This is on the BBC website. Cannabis oil row. But within a day, he's had it returned. Yeah, this one contains that THC. It's illegal in the UK, but available elsewhere. Apparently, although I did arrive. I'm trying to read and speak at the same time, and it's not working. I did read earlier that it is possible for doctors to prescribe this with the THC in it under license now to MS sufferers. But they were basically saying this morning that if he didn't get it back, he could quite possibly die because it was the only thing that had kept his seizures under control.
Well, good thing. Bureaucracy didn't kill this person.
Indeed.
Is there any other follow-up?
What else have we been doing? Morality. I've had a fairly moral week, I think. Fortnight. Comparatively.
Okay. Right. So shall we just go straight into the topic?
Why not?
Today we are covering UK politics.
Yay!
Joys. Where do you want to begin?
Runnymede.
What?
The Doomsday Book.
Okay, well, I would rather start, on a issue now rather than, the past.
Right, okay. What's an issue right now, then? We've done Brexit, so let's not overlap that too much.
We'll talk about that a little, because the situation has
Yeah.
changed a little.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the first things I wanted to talk about, generally, the parties in the UK go through them, but as you might know from some of our previous conversations, I am very left-leaning and would call myself socialist. So naturally, I support the Labour Party, even though I can't vote.
I wouldn't say you're very left-leaning. I wouldn't say you are left-leaning, but I wouldn't say...
Compared to most of the country, yes, I am.
Yeah, but most of the country's kind of centre or right at the moment. I mean, I'm centre left, but I wouldn't call you like
Western
an
politics.
extreme socialist.
No, but Western politics right now is just pretty much, there's a political compass thing. All of it's pretty much in the top right quadrant. Basically, authoritarian right wing, which really pisses me off because I'm in the opposite quadrant, left bottom. Libertarian left wing. Yeah, so I generally support Labour, even though I can't vote, which we will get onto. But one of the things fairly recently has been that there's been a fair amount of controversy around rumours of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party.
All right, yeah.
Which I did
That's
look
been going on a while, isn't it?
Yeah, I did look into that a little because I was worried if it was actually something more serious rather than just media over-exaggeration.
See, what gets to me though is that a lot of the times stuff like this comes out and it's about specific people and specific parties with the label of socialist or Labour or whatever. It's nothing about that sort of branch of the political spectrum, if you like. I mean, it's not inherently anti-Semitic to be left-leaning.
No.
It's just that they've had that brush sort of
Hang on.
been tarred with that brush.
hang on, do a more general search.
Allegations.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I
can't.
don't know if this is the article I had originally. Yes, it is. Right. Basically, this is an article that I looked at. It's Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour's anti-Semitism route explained on BBC.
I'd kind of like to know what constitutes anti-Semitism, because as far as Jews go, there are two aspects to it, aren't there? There's being from the Jewish culture or Jewish descendancy, but there's also the religious aspect, and they're not one and the same. You can be Jewish without being religious.
Yeah.
So are we talking about specifically, because it seems to me that he's just not in favour of Israel, which quite frankly I don't agree with, but that doesn't make me anti-Jewish.
I've been recently doing some research for a discursive essay at school, which is can terrorism be justified? And one of the things I was looking at was the Palestine-Israel conflict, because that's quite a controversial issue where Israel hasn't exactly treated the Palestinians very well. So being against that, I understand, because as I look into it more and more, I'm backing the Palestinians aside from the actual killing civilians part.
Which is not insignificant, but at the same time, what do you do?
A fair amount recently, it's just been the Israeli military has killed protesters before. So, and also with Donald Trump fairly recently recognizing Jerusalem.
Don't start a new religion, for fuck's sake.
Jerusalem as the capital of Israel by moving the US embassy there. That has exacerbated things there. Yeah, it's actually got a segment here. What's the difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism? I think Zionism is...
I thought Zion was a mountain.
It may be. I think it's possibly in modern day Israel. The Zionist movement supports a home for Jews in the Middle East. But
it's not.
There are already Arabs there which kind of lived there and shouldn't just have their home seized off them, but it's happening. So I understand that aspect of that, but I wouldn't call that anti-Semitism. And it's nothing like what the media are presenting. And I get that.
Well,
because Corbyn's quite a progressive.
I've actually been pretty appalled with the media. Well, not surprised, but just over the last week. In fact, I know a lot of bollocks comes out of Westminster, but one thing that I did agree with them saying over the last week was that they wouldn't be bullied by the press, because they were going in for this one of these votes on the Brexit stuff, and I saw in the local shop the front page of the papers that day, and it was basically Rupert Murdoch threatening Westminster.
Yeah. It said, I don't know if this is the one that you saw, but it said, ignore the will of the people at your peril.
Yeah, it's like, Rupert Murdoch, fuck off.
But
the will of the people is their will, not yours, and stop trying to twist it to your own
It's not,
benefit.
Yeah. But it is worrying, because there have been MPs killed. Well, Jo Cox, at least one recently. Well, fairly recently. I think it was about 2 years ago now. She was killed by someone who only gave their name as, I think it was, Death to Traitors, Freedom for Britain. And to be honest, they were saying a lot of the things that were in a Conservative conference around about that time.
Right.
Yeah. And also, there was a video I watched recently, Owen Jones again. I enjoy his videos. Basically talking about that. I'll see if I can find it.
Oh, so that was something that happened in UK politics this week. This would be weeks ago for them, but the entire SNP walked out of Westminster, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it was just the SNP or if it was all the Scottish members of Parliament down there, apart from the Tories, obviously.
Yeah.
Which I still can't believe so many of them got in north of the border, but there you go.
Okay, what was it?
Can't believe so many of them got in anywhere.
Yeah, it was there's two videos here that I wanted to look at quickly, just the start of it because they are fairly long, but we'll just cut out this now. Probably talking about Free Tommy Robinson first. Right, so any thoughts?
Yeah, what worries me the most about all of this is that there's a perception that they believe they're in. It's a bit of a pun, but they believe they're right. You know, it's it's a bit like the argument against kind of religious belief. It's once you've got that conviction, once you're convinced of it, it doesn't matter how much anyone explains to you the logic of the situation or the facts of the situation. You just think you're in the right.
Yeah.
And how do you?
And that is a byproduct of the fact that there is a monopoly on media in Britain.
I'd just like
Murdoch, and he's very right wing.
I'd just like to ask Mrs. Orbiter, who made a comment about some propaganda that was put out by, who was it? Lord Northfield in 1918. Let's look that up. Because in specific reference to that headline in front of was it the Daily Mail or the Express?
Daily Express, the ignore the will of the people at your peril. That was the Daily Express.
Telegraph, here we go. Is this the same one? I don't think it is, because he's just died aged 89. Oh yeah, they're hereditary, aren't they?
We're not having much luck finding anything, because with that phrase we just got a bunch of bullshit on there.
About the actual Huns. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt it's. I can't understand. Well, it's difficult not to sound condescending in saying this, so I'm not even going to try. But I can't understand how anyone can look at the front page of the papers that have headlines like that on them and not see straight through them. You know, I mean, it's clear, whatever side you're on, whether you agree with them or not, it's clear that image with the Union Jack full page spread with ignore the will of the people at your peril it's clear that it's designed to incite uprising. It's kind of, and whether you agree with it or not,
that creates people who think that they're being revolutionary and trying to take down the big politicians and assassinate them.
Because apart from anything else, it's not as
the vast majority
of
people who read that aren't that extreme.
But the way the way
it does create some people.
The way that it comes across is that it sounds like they'd be ignoring the will of the entire population, people. Whereas actually nearly half of us thought the opposite. So it's not ignoring the will of the people. It's
ignoring people that couldn't vote, non-citizens and younger people like me. And also now you said on our Brexit discussion, enough people have died that would go the other way. Probably.
It's going to be an interesting year.
Yeah. The biggest worry for me with support of the Labour Party was this anti-Semitism thing. I was like, most of it I was thinking, yeah, it probably is just being over-exaggerated and it's a few trolls. But I did think about looking into it because I do want to know who I'm voting for. Well, I'm not actually voting yet, which still pisses me off. Yeah, a couple of people saying occasionally toxic atmosphere, which an inquiry found. What Jeremy Corbyn's been accused of is that he hasn't done enough to stop it. He is condemning it, but he's not taking enough action. But then you do sort of go to that, it's like, how can you take action now?
Well, I suppose it depends on what form the anti-Semitism's taken. I mean, you can. I don't know what the mechanisms within the Labour Party are, but you can fire people. I don't know whether or not he has the power to fire people. I would assume so. But.
Yeah, well, he has, from what I can tell, fired most of the people that he has genuine control under, and it's usually sort of supporters that go overboard in forums and stuff and say horrible things. But you can't, it's very difficult to stop that. And I find that quite annoying with a lot of things, is people get annoyed at public figures for their fans. And sometimes that's okay if they're actually inciting that, but sometimes it's ridiculous to assume that their words could be interpreted as that. Like, with Elon Musk, he's gotten quite a bit of hatred on Twitter because his fans sometimes harass people for criticising him. But he can't control that.
But, I mean,
and he has to actively condemn that. But Jeremy Corbyn has too.
Ever since the 90s, when it became, I think it was the 90s, when it kind of suddenly became okay to have what's known as a spin doctor. That's when the label kind of came out as being a genuine kind of post within a political party. It's like, well, how can you possibly trust anything that you read about any of them now, when you know that somebody is legitimately employed to make their own party look good and the other party look bad?
I think
by whatever means.
Only way you can do that is really just looking at as many sources as possible and making your own mind up. And sometimes you make your mind up the wrong way, like, in our opinion, much of the right wing has.
Yeah, well, I suppose it depends on what your sources of information are and how balanced the input of that information is. If all you're doing, a lot of people will only be consuming a regular political viewpoint from maybe a couple of sources. They'll watch a particular news program or listen to a particular radio program and read a particular newspaper. Not many people will go out of their way to read lots of different ones because they tend to gravitate towards the one that agrees with them. And that
it creates
ends up with polarization.
Echo chamber.
You just get forced further and further in that direction.
Yeah, which I try and avoid as much as possible, and sometimes get worried that I'm slipping into that, but I am, where I can, attempting to look at other sources and find other points of view to challenge mine. But it just goes how it goes.
Well, I think it depends on the current environment. I mean, I've said before that I'm pretty much centre-left. And to be honest, in terms of the logical way of...
You vote Lib Dem, don't you?
I have done in the past, yeah. In terms of the general balance, if there was no current political climate, I would think, logically speaking, to me it would make sense to be centre, because that's the best balance of all the different political viewpoints along the spectrum. That's why it's in the centre. But I'm centre-left at the moment, specifically because things are too far right,
Right.
Maybe the centre is too far right now.
I feel like there needs to be a counter there. Not like ridiculously far left, like Stalinist.
But you referred to something before, some kind of window, was it, that gets shifted?
The Overton window.
Yeah.
But all these right-wing figures popping up in Europe and America is shifting that way too far right into a very uncomfortable, nasty place. And it's a slippery slope. Yeah,
I'm not comfortable with the way the Western world is at the moment politically. Nobody's invading other countries, and, well, they kind of are, aren't they? But not to the same extent that Hitler did.
But they are
the political environment is there that was
They are
present
invading
before.
the minds of the people through social media.
Yeah. It's a different battleground nowadays, isn't it?
Now, the thing that actually sparked up the whole anti-Semitism thing was, mainly, was that Jeremy Corbyn liked, he liked a picture of a mural that was supposedly anti-Semitic. I looked at it originally and thought, I don't see that. Basically, it's what looks like a bunch of businessmen around a Monopoly board with a sort of Illuminati pyramid behind them, and underneath the Monopoly board are a bunch of people. I took from this that it's anti-corporation.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Yeah.
Because it's not very complimentary, is it?
No. But apparently, if you look closer at the actual figures, they're meant to be Jewish.
Or what the figures around the
Yeah.
Monopoly table?
Yeah. Like,
And how...
slightly big noses, I think. I don't know.
Right.
But
Well,
I would understand that he wouldn't originally see that, just as we haven't. I wouldn't see that if it wasn't in this context.
who are the people
I
under
would
the
think
Monopoly
it's
board
maybe a
supposed to
bit-
be, then?
The population.
Right.
I would think that the whole sort of Illuminati thing was a bit over the top, but sort of get the message that corporations that control the world...
Is that the Illuminati symbol, is it?
Yeah.
I thought that was something off of the US dollar bill.
It is, actually.
Fuck's sake. Oh my god. How obvious does it have to be before people just kind of set up and...
I feel like
Say
that's the
something.
universe just having a bit of a laugh with us.
Fuck's sake.
But there were a few people...
This is why I
actual
like to.
MPs
This is why I like to play spectator with life, because you can't take it seriously when things that blatantly wrong happen.
Oh, that was funny. I've been watching a TV series called Tracy Breaks the News recently.
That is good.
And one of the sketches in, I think it's episode 3, the most recent one at the time of recording, was basically Theresa May believes she was in the Truman Show because everything around her was so ridiculous. Like the fact that America, after having
I
a
could believe that
summit
myself.
with North Korea, basically becoming best buddies seemingly with them,
It is
threatening war with Canada.
ridiculous.
It seems like
You can't.
it seems like a creation of Douglas Adams.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, and then it comes out in the news that the 2026 World Cup's been awarded to for the first time to 3 countries with a joint bid: America, Canada, and Mexico. It's like, what?
I believe I've talked about a person before called Exerbia,
Yeah.
and one of his videos basically said the universe is a really fucking good episode of TV and we're just stupid cats.
So what?
Like, if a cat's...
You don't remember
Sitting
Watu
next-
Watu Superbad, do you?
No, but if a cat's watching Game of Thrones, it doesn't understand any of the plot there.
Mm.
So maybe we're just stupid cats.
Or maybe we do. We just realise that there's nothing we can do to change the plot because we're just watching. You know, it's kind of
very philosophical. Anyway.
No, Watu Watu Superbird. There's a breed. There's a race in there called that are played by geese. It's an animated cartoon, but the geese are basically stupid and just cock everything up, make the stupidest mistakes, and are just ignorant. But they're supposed to be the human beings of the story.
I remember you talking to me about this, and I just thought you'd gone insane.
No, just look it up. Watu Watu Superbird.
I did look it up at the time.
It is quite dated now, but actually the bit where the superbirds come racing down out of the sky looks a bit like sort of Japanese anime. You know, when they kind of their eyes go all big and they come racing down in like a.
I don't know because
trails
I don't
of-
watch anime. Cause
Oh,
I'm
well, I
not
don't,
fucking-
but I know what it
Scrub.
is.
Yeah, but I don't care. So
Fine, fuck you then.
yeah, I did say.
I don't care.
I did say about how I get annoyed that I'm not allowed to vote. It's just, why? Why shouldn't I be allowed to vote? I don't see any reason for it. I mean, I get that other 15-year-olds might not get it, but then you're 46, aren't you?
It's like
other
everything,
46-year-olds probably don't get politics.
But it is like everything in the legal field, is that there has to be a line that's drawn, and it's real life is never that precise. You know, it's like the age of consent thing. It's not like one day suddenly you're responsible enough to make that decision.
But
it's just that the law has to. Yeah. Well, yeah. The police don't necessarily treat it that black and white, but with voting,
with consent, there is slight.
But you can't have at polling stations the presiding officer can't just decide on the day whether or not you're responsible enough, can they? There's got to be you've got to be on the electoral roll, and it's got to be precise. But I do agree that it's too high.
Yeah. It should definitely be lowered to 16.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that.
Because if you're old enough to take care of a human life, then you're old enough to have a say in your country.
Scotland local council elections, I think, are open to 16, or I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
Look at voting ages in Scotland.
I know for was it the referendum for Scottish independence, was that 17 or?
Not sure.
In Scotland.
Well, it was 21 until 1969. 1970.
The referendum allowed 16-year-olds.
But only in Scotland, and only in that particular referendum. And 75% of them turned out.
Yeah. They really... Because younger people are very aware of the internet, I think you said that...
You're more politically aware than any generation before.
Like, I know a lot about politics, probably more than the Orbiter. No offense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Because I just care about it more, and I'm on all the social media things that tell me about this stuff, and they're aware of...
You have more of a stake in it.
Yeah.
You've got longer to put up with it.
Well...
Hopefully.
If Brexit goes all apocalypse, maybe not.
Apocalypse.
Well, it was a thing recently, because I can't remember who it was, but it might have actually been the Secret Service that predicted 3 possible outcomes of the Brexit no-deal situation, if it goes that way, which it's increasingly looking like it would, is that in the worst situation, the UK could run out of food, and the first areas to be hit would be Scotland and Cornwall. So we could starve.
Well, they've got pasties down there. We've got deep fried Mars bars up here. Sorry, I'm belittling the situation. We could starve. I don't know.
We'll just live off solid iron brew.
There's plenty of Highland coos around here.
We'll just jump into one, just raw.
We've got some steak
just
knives.
alive, just going...
You can make a fire. Yeah, I think it's a bit... I don't think it's likely to come to that.
No, but it's gonna be very economically tricky for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, it already is getting that way, but it's...
And the fact that the Tory government's not exactly great with actually being compassionate towards people that are vulnerable, then those sorts of people will just keep getting more and more people who need benefits, meaning that there's more strain on that with the same budget. Meaning those people just keep getting in worse and worse situations.
Yeah. It's all fucked, isn't it, at the moment?
Austerity's just been mostly proven just not to work. And even some of the top Tory people have said that it doesn't work, yet they still do it. Because you need strong leadership. That pissed me off. during the 2017 general election, they kept saying, "Oh well, Jeremy Corbyn's just not a strong leader," and then
What does that mean, though? You don't actually need strong leadership. You need someone leading you in the right direction.
I get that he might seem that like he knits jumpers in his spare time.
Strong leadership to me is a by phrase, if you like, for authoritarianism.
Yeah, and Theresa May's leadership has not been strong. She U-turned massively in that campaign, and Tory ministers are rebelling left, right, and centre. Well, not really left, but
and yet somehow the right-wing media has managed to pull off the trick of the century by convincing the majority of the electorate that it's all the left's fault.
But I always feel like when we say, "Oh, the media have manipulate people this way," that we sound a lot like Fox News and saying, "Oh,
we do," or
yeah, and saying, "Oh, the mainstream media does this," and then sort of bring around that sort of fake news culture. We've got to be wary of.
Well, they don't. Yeah, fake news is about saying things that aren't true. But there's a lot of opinion in our media. There's a lot of, political pressure, if you like. It's not just because in this country, I don't think the laws are quite as strict in America about journalistic accuracy. Because you get the libel thing here, don't you? Where if they print something that's actually untrue, they can be sued for it. But they do a lot of editorial leading, if you like.
And the headlines are just awful on those sorts of things.
But honestly, I look at the front page of the paper and it just it makes me laugh almost as much as some of these really tatty gossip mags that talk about.
I believe there have been a few occasions where The Onion has predicted things that actually happened.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Everything that's going on, you kind of think you couldn't make it up because nobody would believe it. Nobody would believe you.
Yeah. I imagine it's quite difficult for political satirists.
So maybe we should be having a think about what ridiculous thing that we think would be just stupid and wouldn't happen that might actually happen. What would be the thing that you would think? No, that's just not possible.
Let's go for something sort of Cards Against Humanity level horrible.
Okay. So what have we got coming up that is to be decided? Brexit's obviously a big contender. What's going to happen with that? To be honest, whatever happens, it's going to be a fucking mess, isn't it? Because even if it gets reversed, the country's going to be in uproar.
Yeah. Even if it is then the will of the people now.
I can't see a good way out of all of this because the way things are going, I can't see Scotland not holding another independence referendum.
I think the only other way that this could be more absurd is if the UK strapped rockets to itself and just blasted itself into the middle of the Atlantic.
Well, there is the possibility, right, that we leave Europe with no deal, so we're isolated from Europe. Scotland then leave the UK and rejoin Europe.
London becomes an independent city-state, and Cornwall becomes a Mad Max-style wasteland.
At which point, obviously, in that situation, Scotland would be far more allied to Europe, and England would be far more allied to America.
We make Hadrian's Wall much taller, so it becomes an ice wall out of Game of Thrones.
And then Putin gets his wishes and starts to invade Ukraine and stuff, so Europe enlists the help of all their allies, including Scotland, to fight the Russians. And America have got in bed with the Russians as well, so basically Europe gets attacked from both sides. And England and Hadrian's Wall becomes
I already said that.
The wild. Oh yeah, yeah.
And
are we the White Walkers then, or are we the
the Wildlings?
The Wildlings. Who are the White Walkers?
I don't know. We might become the White Walkers.
I can't envisage a sane way out of all of it. we're at that point. It's like, I mean, America must be the same at the moment with Trump, you know? How do we all come out of this with a reasonable world?
We don't.
But I mean, I'm wondering whether or not it is obviously the media and the internet and the freedom of information and that is so much more nowadays. Maybe I'm wondering whether or not politics has always been like this and we just haven't been as privy to it as we are nowadays. Because I mean, I know there was a lot of shit going on in the 80s with Maggie Thatcher and the far right sort of Tory government then. Especially Scotland hated the Tories then. But now they're kind of voting some of them in. But
Well, I think that's because the leader of the Scottish Conservatives is a lot more progressive.
right,
She's a lesbian, currently pregnant, so you kind of have to be more progressive in that situation than sort of traditional values conservatives.
yeah.
And she's sort of brought back the conservatism thing in Scotland.
Oh, did you see that thing earlier in the week? A few weeks ago for you guys, but I think it was only yesterday or the day before about the Tory MP that had blocked the vote on making upskirting illegal.
Yeah, I saw
He didn't
that.
actually know what it was, did he?
I saw that in the news. I was like, wait, how is that not already illegal?
Yeah, it does seem a little strange, that one.
But you might have slightly misinterpreted that. I looked a bit further into it, and it was actually making it a specific offence
right. Yeah, okay.
rather than just non-consensually touching someone there.
No, it's not about touching, it's about
right.
taking photographs.
Alright, I thought that would definitely be specifically illegal.
Upskirting is taking photos up skirts, basically.
Right.
Which would potentially put the press in lots of trouble, because the number of times that you see where they've got a particularly dodgy angle, I think there was a famous one of Britney Spears getting out of a car, where you see everything.
Well, I think
the press.
the law does take into account intent there.
Yeah, and I think like public papers would have blanked the particular part out, but the fact that it's not the publication of it that's the issue, it's the taking of the photo in the first place. And I think, yeah, intent, like deliberate kind of, it's voyeurism, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
It's kind of concealed, hidden viewing of something that you don't have access to.
Anyway,
But I just thought it was funny that he didn't. The guy that blocked it did it basically on the grounds that he didn't know what it was. He blocked it because it hadn't been debated properly, in his opinion. But it's like, yeah, that's because everybody else knows what it is.
right. Do you want to have a quick talk about the other parties? The main ones.
I wonder how main Liberal Democrats are. I mean, they don't get that many votes. The thing that worries me about the Labour Party, apparently, and I don't know if this is reliable because it came from the Liberal Democrat feed on my Facebook page, but
Right.
there was one constituency where there was a Labour candidate that something had just happened to. I can't remember, but basically the Liberal Democrat membership in that area had sextupled in a day.
Right.
They'd basically got loads of votes from the Labour voters. So, I mean, it does seem that Corbyn's on the wane, doesn't it? Certainly from the last election, but that may well be just because it's mid-term and, you know, I mean, he did seem to be really savvy with the campaign last time. He seemed to have media, what do you call it? He seemed to have his marketing right.
But I just think a lot of people are, for some reason, unnecessarily against him for things that he hasn't actually done, and just thinking, oh, he might do this. Or, I mean, there's generally there's a lot of stigma around socialism even in Britain.
That's probably
now.
more that they're against what he represents.
Yeah, because a lot of people still think, oh, the USSR, that's socialist. I mean, it's in the sort of acronym, but it's nowhere near what Corbyn's representing, and nowhere near anything that he would do. But that's still the stigma.
And the irony of it is that that worry that we would get that far left is at a time when we're already pretty far right, like almost like the opposite. And it's
but we do need that left opposition, even if it doesn't get into power, just to shift that Overton window.
Yeah. What happens though? Because the further, there's the balances, as you say, the Overton window thing. There's the balances. The further right society gets, what is the tipping point where it causes something to? Because it can't just keep going further and further right.
Yeah, it can.
Well, even when you look at Nazi Germany, that came to an end. At what point does...
They were actually quite economically centrist.
Yeah.
It was just incredible authoritarianism.
Yeah. But at what point does somebody... Does the... Not just somebody, because there's always somebody that's saying, hang on a minute, this is not right. But at what point does it collapse? Does it become untenable?
Well, humanity's survived a lot of things. But
do you think capitalism is inherently right-wing?
Initially it was quite actually progressive, because compared to feudalism, it was more power to people. But I think it's becoming outdated, and right-wing is more wanting to keep the old sort of conservative, that's where the name comes from, wanting to stay in the past. So
it's a weird one. I'm thinking about democracy, and I started a thought process there where I was thinking, are we in a society where democracy is just something that is like a face that is on the surface, and it's a mask for you have the government that's supposedly democratically elected in place, but they're actually being controlled by the people with the money and the corporations. But then I kind of went further into that thought process and thought, well, is that not kind of... I know you get balances of power kind of... Well, I suppose they kind of feed each other, don't they? Because I'm thinking, like, the way money flows around in society is a fairly democratic process when people are choosing what to use their money for.
Yeah, but it's manipulated.
Yeah, that's the thing. I suppose when politics and financial organisations get in bed together, you've got them feeding off each other then, haven't you?
And then it becomes law.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to protect those consumers.
Law fascinates me.
To a degree, once you get into the actual papers, it gets fairly boring.
But the process, it must be a fascinating profession to be, a judge or a lawyer, or when you get to a point where you can actually influence legislation.
I don't know if it's a thing in the UK, but in America, you can, in a court case, basically say, I believe this person is guilty of the crime you're sentencing, that you're convicting them of, but I don't believe that law is just.
Right.
Although you can't exactly just sort of shout it out, because actually if you know that, and the law knows that you know that, then you can't be in a jury.
Right.
So there you go. Any Americans watching, you can't really be in a jury. And neither can we. Well, in America at least. I don't know if it's a thing in the UK. But basically that way of changing the law, and it has been used once or twice, I think.
Yeah, because there's a difference, isn't there, between determining whether you think somebody is guilty of what the law says they're guilty of, and whether or not you think that that's actually something they should be brought to justice for. And
that's what the jury system is actually for, I think, or it should be for at least. Bring democracy into there. You would get tyranny of majority, which is why it has to be unanimous. But then in occasional, it's a really sort of weird random system where you can get just the wrong group of people there.
Yeah.
Or sometimes with corruption, people can be bribed into there.
So UK politics.
Yeah.
The voting system's bollocks for a start, isn't it?
Yeah, we did talk about that in US politics with the Electoral College. In the UK, we have a parliamentary system. It is better than the US. Actually, there was I think it was called the Democracy Index or something. 2017, here, right, by The Economist.
The Economist Intelligence Unit. Top 5, 4 of them are Scandinavian.
Yeah, I think, and they're generally a lot more left wing.
Yeah.
We are in the top 10, I believe.
Oh, we're not.
And America, with all the things with collusion in Russia and the corruption there,
Authoritarian
they've
regime.
been ranked as a flawed democracy.
We're not a full democracy then.
We are.
We are, but not in the top kind of bracket of it.
We're still in the top 10 though, I think.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'll get the paper up. There was a Wikipedia thing for this that probably more useful. There we go. Yeah, we're 14th, sorry. We are a full democracy under this, but it's still not a perfect system. Norway's ranked top.
United States is a flawed democracy.
Yeah, that's what I said. And
actually, looking at this, can I look at the top 20 again? Yeah, the only one, Uruguay, but the vast majority of those in the top 20 are European.
yeah, well, they sort of had that history.
You've got the Oceanic,
which was bad.
the Oceania, sort of
Got Canada, a fair amount of,
Australasian.
yeah.
Australia. New Zealand, Australia.
But that might be
Canada.
slightly because of Commonwealth, and same with New Zealand.
I like the way South Korea gets a better score on democracy than the United States. And Spain,
Yeah,
they're
like
surprising.
right at the bottom of full democracy.
But they're still
I mean,
above
obviously
United
this
States.
isn't a perfect index, but they have done their research on this, The Economist, and The Economist is generally quite a trusted thing.
It's a combination of different aspects, isn't it?
We were... do you want to go further into the electoral process? Because we were going to slightly talk about going over the different parties and then got distracted, as we normally do. What do you think of the Green Party?
I don't know a huge amount about them. They're closer to my views than Tories, I think.
Yeah, before Labour went left wing, because before they were, I basically thought they were basically just red Tories.
Right.
Because with Blair,
Yeah.
that was just basically playing to that rather than actually being left wing, and that's how this far right thing has risen up, because it's just been
It shifted
centrism or centre right, or I guess a little bit the main sort of the furthest opposition that had any chance would be centre left. But now that's changing more, which I think is a good thing, but it's just not going anywhere fast enough.
Well, I think one of the things the Americans find quite fascinating is when it comes to our actual elections, some of the independents that stand up, people dressed as fish fingers, and monster raving loony party has been around for decades. You know,
Yeah, you do
anyone can run for office.
You do get some funny candidates in America, but they take themselves seriously.
Yeah,
Like
sometimes it gets to the White House.
Oh yeah, that I swear that must have started as a bet.
Well, I mean, Ronald Reagan was a fucking actor, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying that actors can't have any political views, but
Arnold Schwarzenegger's actually not that bad.
yeah, he's all right. But he's technically, is he American?
He's got
does he have
American situation,
citizenship?
but he was born in Austria, so he can't be president.
Yeah. Who are 15th on the full democracy thing. Austria.
Just below us. Other parties, we talked a lot about Labour because that's who I generally sympathise with, and a little bit about the Lib Dems. Would you like to go any more into the Lib Dems?
One of the things, because I did join them for a little while after the referendum happened, and one of the things that I found interesting was that they're the only party whose policies are basically voted on by the membership, rather than drawn up by the people in office, if you like.
Yeah.
It does seem to be internally fully democratic, the decisions that are made. For instance, if they send out a questionnaire or what have you on a particular issue, say, do you think prostitution should be legal or illegal? If the electorate, if all the members voted or more members voted to say it should be legal, then that was what the policy they would adopt, regardless of. There's no actual. I
guess that's how you get that
political definition of who and what they are. They just take the opinion of their members.
So going sort of more supportive of direct democracy, even if not implementing that.
Yeah, I suppose really it is an exact definition of the words liberal democracy.
Yeah,
it's free democracy. It's it's voted on by the members.
I think Switzerland's the only place to have direct democracy, which is basically where most, if not all, policy decisions for the government are decided by referenda.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose you could say that the referendum, the Brexit referendum, was the most liberal democratic way of holding.
Yeah, but it wasn't informed properly.
No, it was so influenced.
And if it's that close, then it needs to be rethought.
I think you've got to have a particular mindset for that kind of democracy to work.
Because with
and Liberal Democrats tend to have that kind of.
I think there was a referendum in France. I can't remember what it was on, but it was something like 65% of people supported it, and they still didn't go through with it because they didn't think that was enough public support to warrant a massive change to the law.
There's plenty of countries in Europe that have had independence referenda, like 2 or 3 of them, to try and get a different result. But even ones that have voted out and just haven't done it because. With
a fair amount of those, there have been things with turnout.
Yeah.
Like in Catalonia, I think it was something.
Was that a legitimate vote?
It wasn't legal, but if they can't get a legal vote, then what are they supposed to do? The government's too authoritarian to actually allow them that. Well, that's
technically a situation we could find ourselves in.
Yeah. And there was
it's a dangerous precedent for the government.
It was in Puerto Rico. I can't remember if it was a referendum to get statehood or to get independence, because right now Puerto Rico is a US territory, but Puerto Ricans can't vote in US elections because it's not a state.
Mm. We have British territories, don't we?
Yeah. They're in a slightly weird situation, like
and then the Crown dependencies.
Gibraltar. They could vote in Brexit.
There is an explanation of the difference.
Could they vote in general elections, Gibraltar?
I'm not sure, but there is an explanation of the difference between all the different forms of being British or part of the British Commonwealth. It's not the British Commonwealth anymore, is it? Is it?
It is. It's just not called the British Commonwealth. It's just called the Commonwealth.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not actually called the British Commonwealth.
And it is a organisation.
Although the Queen is the head of it.
Yeah, like Canada's head of state is the Queen.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I mean, like, obviously, she's just a queen in name, really.
Well, technical head of state.
She's not a.
But she does have a lot of influence there, and when she dies, that's going to be a massive thing.
Yeah.
They did apparently recently secure it that everyone would stay part of the Commonwealth when she dies, and I think Philip would take over as Philip. I can't remember. Can't be bothered.
I thought she'd said that she wanted Charles to take over as head of the
Yeah, it might
Commonwealth.
be Charles. I don't know.
Because Philip, actually, I should have brought this up when we were talking about, well, maybe religion, I don't know, but there is a tribe, I don't know if it's a tribe or a country, that actually worship Prince Philip. No, they believe that he's a deity.
Why?
I don't know, we should look it up though. The Prince Philip movement, here we go. It's a religious sect followed by the Kaston people around Yanoan village on the southern island of Tanna in Vanuatu.
I believe Vanuatu.
They believe
is a
that
part
he's.
of the
They
Commonwealth.
believe that Prince Philip, the consort to Queen Elizabeth II, is a divine being, and he goes to visit them and stuff. And they to them it's like Jesus is coming to them.
Travelled overseas to a distant land. There he married a powerful woman. And
In time would return to them.
And marrying a powerful woman. Was he born in the royal family or did he marry into it? I don't know. I have very little knowledge of the royal family because I just don't give a shit.
They had seen the respect accorded to Queen Elizabeth II by the colonial officials and concluded that her husband, Prince Philip, must be the son referred to in their legends.
Right.
The belief came about sometime in the 1950s or 1960s, strengthened by the royal couple's official visit in 1974, when he didn't know about it.
Right.
Champions suggested that Prince Philip send them a portrait of himself. He agreed and sent a signed official photograph. The villagers responded by sending him a traditional pig-killing club. And the prince sent a photograph of himself back posing with the club. He obviously likes being
Yeah.
worshipped.
I'd imagine he'd be the sort of person that would. Anyway,
Yeah, sorry, we digressed there.
some of the other main parties are sort of... how many would there be? You've got
There's loads.
the ones that would be in the main television debates, and the Tories and UKIP. Tories,
SNP.
yeah, but they're national ones. I'm talking about ones that are more general first, and then going on to the national ones. The Tories, when at their best, they're just a bit sort of
Annoying.
yeah, well, just sort of saying, oh, just let's play it safe sort of thing, I guess, or just sort of always trying to put the economy first rather than actually the people that the economy would be aimed to benefit, I guess. They instead of actually redistributing it through tax, they rather cut the aid to them so that they get jobs, which hasn't worked, and yet they keep doing it.
There's got to be a thriving job market for that to...
Not completely cut it, but partially cut it by lowering budgets. And UKIPs, they're just fucking insane. They just completely... I don't know if they sort of intentionally do this publicly to just sort of get people on their side, basically represent refugees as something that they're completely not, and immigrants, and say, oh, they're criminals and they take jobs, and it's like they don't draw on the benefit system nearly as much as UK citizens, native citizens do. They contribute more because they had to work to get to the UK. They have a good work ethic.
But how many times as well are you having to wait for appointments and stuff on the NHS because they're understaffed? It's like...
Yeah. Because there's...
You can't have it both ways.
They say, oh, well, we need less immigrants because they're in... they're making waiting lists bigger. But most of the... Well, not most, sorry. I'm over-exaggerating and hyperbole. A fair portion of the staff of the NHS is immigrants.
I would.
Because
I don't know.
they're not paid enough.
You'd have to look into the
here,
figures, but
actual...
I would pretty much hazard a guess that there's a much higher percentage of immigrants staffing the NHS than there are in the queues to
We don't
use it.
fund our education system enough to get British doctors there.
Mind you, there was, there is a bit of criticism of that internationally, that we have historically kind of bled other countries of their skilled workers by enticing them here with better pay, like medical staff and stuff like that other countries are running short of because
but now
they
they're
come
cutting
here.
that pay. So our doctors are leaving and the NHS is understaffed. And it can be years on a waiting list for some conditions.
Yeah.
It's just a bad situation. Go on, because we have been recording for some time.
We have.
But
Could be our longest episode, this.
it could be. But these are getting longer and longer, so you might end up with a 2-hour episode just because we get out of hand one time.
Podcast audiences have a bit more attention span, don't
Yeah.
Dear listener.
Dear listener.
I didn't... You don't have to whisper it.
Yes, I do.
It's not that kind of a relationship.
Yes, I do, dear listener. I feel really dirty.
Should I leave the room?
No. Yes, the sort of national parties, and generally because the UK is divided into 4. Well, England doesn't have its own devolved parliament because most of the MPs are from there, and people campaign for English devolution. But right now there's a devolved parliament in Scotland, one in Wales, and one in Northern Ireland.
Which is why the Scottish ones all walked out the other week, the other day, wasn't it? Because they reckon Westminster's trying to grab back the powers from...
Meaning on some issues they can make their own policies. Hence why there's a different voting age in Scotland for local elections. And
why we had gay marriage here before.
And why there are no tuition fees here. Well, for people of a lower income.
And why they're trying out universal basic income here.
Yeah.
See, and why we have free prescription charges. No prescription charges here.
There's quite I can't remember his name, but I saw it on Live at the Apollo, a Scottish comedian basically saying whenever England tries to do something, because there's quite a historical hatred between England and Scotland, whenever the English are being racist, like, oh, England's being racist, we can't have that. And basically just doing the opposite and becoming really progressive, and it's good.
Yeah. I see what you mean, yeah. We the Scottish are rebelling by actually progressing. Leaving England behind. The only thing that would worry me... because
not being racist by being racist against the English.
See, there's so many things at the moment that I think are more favourable up here. That the only thing that would worry me with the potential for Scotland leaving the UK would be that we might lose some of those things because we couldn't afford them anymore.
Yeah. We do get a fair amount of money that we don't make ourselves from Westminster.
But having said that, if we did leave and rejoin Europe, then we may well get subsidies from Europe.
Yeah, but with
help with that.
Catalonia in Spain, Catalonia's wanting independence. So if the EU gave legitimacy to Scotland's independence, then Spain wouldn't be happy and might vote them out.
It's all a bit complex, isn't
Yeah.
it? You can't look at UK politics without looking at the rest of the world at the same time, but it's going to be, I think there's no doubt it's going to be, may you live in interesting times. We've said that before.
There's also Plaid Cymru in Wales. I don't know a lot about them. I briefly saw them on the debates basically going, we just need to fund Wales' natural beauty.
Well,
something like that.
actually, within my lifetime, a terrorist organisation has become a legitimate political party in the UK.
Oh yeah, in Northern Ireland that was quite hot in the 80s and 90s because they basically had a civil war where you had an IRA and I think it was Ulster Defence Force.
There were regularly bomb scares and bombs going off in London.
I think my aunt had to evacuate her. Well, not personally evacuate, but she was being evacuated from her school because there was a bomb threat there.
But back then, it's strange because I mean, it's all about the media is all about talking about the Muslims and the immigrants and stuff nowadays. But back then,
white people can be terrorists too.
See, back when I lived in London in
Christians.
the 80s and the early 90s, if there was a bomb scare, you assumed it was to do with Northern Ireland. There was no Muslim connection then. It was just
I feel like
the present terrorists.
Hypocritical racism against Arabs, where people just think, oh, terrorists, of course, all these refugees, they must be terrorists, despite the fact that they're fleeing the terrorists and their oppressive governments, you know.
I wonder if they view our invading troops as the terrorists in their countries.
I mean...
I suppose they're state legitimised, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, because with the Joe Cox murdering, that was a terrorist. You can't just say, oh, well, they weren't Muslim, so they're clearly not a terrorist.
They were mentally ill.
People that shoot up abortion clinics in America, they are terrorists.
Yeah. They perpetrate acts of violence to create terror. That's the definition, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't have to be part of a specific organisation to do it.
Yeah, in Northern Ireland, you've got the main two parties, although it's very unstable there. Like, there's 4 or 5 parties, and I think something happened recently where people promised seats to each other, and then only 2 parties really emerged from that. The DUP, who are doing confidence and supply, basically, oh, we're not officially a coalition, but we'll give you votes.
To the Tories.
Yeah, to the Tories, to actually get stuff free without it being a deadlock. And
that's working out well for them. They got their money's worth there, didn't they?
1 billion. And then you got Sinn Féin, and Jerry Adams, the leader of that, was actually a member of the IRA.
Yeah.
But then plenty of people in the DUP were
may
terrorists
well be
too.
again at some point in the future, for all we know.
Yeah, I could easily see that whole Ireland thing kicking off again properly when Brexit's done, because there's not been much resolution on the Ireland border thing. They've basically said, yeah, neither party wants this. So...
And God knows what's going to happen with Gibraltar.
I can easily imagine it going back to Spain.
Yeah. It's all a mess, isn't it?
Because Spain already has a bit of sourness about that.
We'll call it a work in progress. Okay, politics.
Yeah, the Brexit deadline for actual negotiations is October, although we leave, is it March 2019? Because that was when Article 50 was triggered last year.
We should do, if, I know you're not expecting it to happen, but if there was another referendum, whether it be independence for Scotland or for the UK, we should do a bit of recording. We should stay up and watch the results come in and do a bit of recording while they come in.
Do a live stream on it.
Yeah, we could, yeah.
When we finally figure out how that works.
Oh, I know how it works. We could do that. I'm sure people would be up
Technically, I mean.
For joining in with that.
Yeah.
Sod, a rant and a rave.
Sod the BBC's coverage of that.
Yeah.
Sod Channel 4.
We could do our own little
do Breaking
graphics.
Dad.
You know the graphics.
BDTV.
We could get some crayons out.
That sounds like a
do our own graphics. Sounds like what?
A fetish.
Yeah. Is that like S&M TV?
Well, like BDSM, BDTV.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to talk about one of the other things with Labour, which is why a lot of people think Jeremy Corbyn's not a strong leader, which is that a lot of people...
Can we get another coffee then?
Fine. Okay, we're having a brief coffee break.
We need a sponsor.
What if we...
Well, I was just thinking, a coffee break, ad break. We need a mid-podcast sponsor so we can have a proper break. Welcome back.
Yeah, well, for you it's probably been just one jump cut, but
Oh, caffeine. Right. So where were we? What were we talking
We're
about?
talking about.
Can we take this Prince Philip movement off the screen because it's doing my head in? Right. Thank you. Carry on.
We're talking about how people see Jeremy Corbyn's stance on Brexit as not decisive.
Yeah.
I don't really get that. He has come out and said that, and up to the actual vote, he was saying, I'm voting Remain. I voted Remain. So there's no ambiguity? Is that right? Ambiguity there.
Ambiguity.
Yeah.
It's getting late.
Yeah. I'm not an idiot. It's just 11 o'clock. It's not that late for me, but I only got up 10 hours ago.
Yeah, but you tend not to get nearly enough sleep the rest of the time, so catching up.
Yeah. I just sort of, I think that's again the sort of media sort of presenting that story when it's not real.
Well, Rupert Murdoch benefits from far-right politicians being in charge, doesn't he?
Yeah. I feel like there's a conflict of interest there where corporations own the newspapers, so they're going to want pro-corporation things to be promoted in those.
Yeah, what's the way around that? I suppose the internet has the potential to democratise the news more, doesn't it?
Yeah, but has a potential to spiral out of controls too. Sorry, I just punched my mic.
Does that polarise things more?
Yes, definitely. You just get endless echo chambers where basically the only people you follow are people that you agree with. And so they just echo your views and only show you the examples where they're right. But you never see the other side.
Yeah.
Man, it's fucked up. The system.
So what else do we
There was
consider?
that second Owen Jones video that I did say about.
Remind me, Owen Jones is
He's a journalist for The Guardian.
a journalist for The Guardian.
Yeah.
So
Although,
presumably The Guardian's not owned by Rupert Murdoch then?
no, it's quite left wing.
Yeah.
I assumed that you were aware of that.
I don't actually. I deliberately
That's right.
avoid the press in general, just because.
Yeah, but you have to stay informed.
Yeah, but I
Avoid,
don't
like-
believe that reading newspapers is the way to do
Not
that.
newspapers, but
Well, The Guardian's
don't
a newspaper.
avoid news.
No, I don't avoid news. I'm just saying I deliberately avoid newspapers.
Avoid the tabloid, yeah, because they talk bullshit. Generally. It just avoiding.
But I find the
any-
easiest way is to just never read a newspaper.
Well, then read it online.
Yeah, I do. I get some.
Like
I think
Guardian
I do the
online.
Guardian in my
Yeah.
feed. I get the Independent as well. What are they?
They're more centrist, I think, sort of a non-partisan sort of thing.
Yeah.
Although everyone's subject to bias.
Yeah.
The Economist is another good one. The one that did. the
Apparently,
Marx
Al Jazeera is one of the more unbiased news channels, if you like.
They tend to be.
And RT
more-
Network, is it?
I doubt they're being unbiased though. They're funded by the Russian government.
That's what I thought, but those two were kind of.
I
Oh no, Reuters. I knew it had a. No, it's called Reuters.
Oh, right.
I knew it had an R and a T in it.
But RT is Russian Times, I think. Maybe it's like Russian television, I don't know. Anyway, the other one that I was looking at was the Tories and Islamophobia.
I'd like to see that one sometime.
Yeah, Jonathan Pye and meeting Owen Jones.
Yeah, I might watch that after we're finished.
His real name's not actually Jonathan Pye.
No, I didn't suppose.
Click on this. We'll cut this out. Right, so that was a lot about Islamophobia in Britain and the Conservative Party in particular, and in relation to anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. Although basically just saying, oh, that's okay because this party did this. That's not okay, and that's not what the video is doing. I don't think that's what the Labour Party is doing. But just I'm trying to be wary of that myself, because I have seen it on Twitter a bit where...
But it is instructive to look at the difference between the response to the different issues in the different parties, and the fact that actually it looks like the Conservatives are far more guilty of racism than the Labour Party, but it's just not.
Because they're not actually doing anything.
It's the accepted view.
Well, not doing much, at least.
Again, I come
Labour
back to
has suspended MPs.
Again, I come back to the feeling that, I just feel it feels now that being a Muslim in the UK would be a similar kind of feeling to being a Jew in Germany in the early 1900s. It's not something I'm comfortable with at all, and it worries me that it will go further, right? Because it can, and it has in the past, to the point where people like Owen Jones and people like us begin to already feel in danger from certain sections of society by standing up and saying, no, this is not right.
Yeah, I mean,
she got murdered for it, didn't she?
Yeah.
Jo Cox.
If Breaking Bollocks gets bigger, we are public figures saying
this. Well, everyone is,
Yeah.
I mean, it is publicly accessible. All it takes is some nutter to take objection to what we say.
If in some crazy right-wing person's mind, or crazy any sort of person's mind, become that we are seen as a threat to their viewpoint and their vision for the world, then they might see it as just to assassinate us.
Fuck 'em.
You say that now, but you can't say that when
you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't.
And they silence
my point
people.
is, I don't say fuck them in terms of.
Yeah.
It's not that I disrespect.
I know that it's unlikely for that to happen.
But you can't live your life according to your fears.
No.
You got to be sensible to a certain extent. Yeah, I'm not inviting people to, far right dickheads to come and do anything.
Come at me, mate.
Yeah.
Stab me.
It reminds me of the old football hooligans thing where they're just like basically standing there like this. Come on in. Nah. Peace, man. Don't know where that went.
Nah. Yeah, we should probably be wrapping this up because I don't know how much of that was spent around with coffee and our little...
Probably no more than half an hour maximum.
Pre-recording issues and the Owen Jones videos. So this is probably... Our recording has probably been going on for about 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we should probably wrap up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Is there anything...
Hopefully we'll still be here next time.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to add?
Just it's bloody interesting and it's highly entertaining. I just hope it doesn't.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously it has all of this bullshit that you see. It has negative consequences for everyone, and there's only a certain amount you can do. But you gotta. One thing I would say to anyone who's listening, especially from Middle England, and this is inspired
Middle England. Is that like Middle Earth?
Yeah. Might as well be. This is inspired by somebody that I know.
Do you mean like the Midlands?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Basically, anyone who.
The Midlands is a myth.
Have a
It's only
think.
north and south.
Everybody, just have a think about the way you vote, because there are so many people I know who simply vote Conservative because they always have, or because everyone in their area does, or because that just seems to be the way that the country is. And it's like, no, look at what they stand for, consider your vote, find out what they... Because I won't say who, but I'll tell you who it is afterwards. I
think
know,
I know but
somebody who's voted Tory all their life, and it's just had no idea
yeah.
that it was completely against everything that they kind of believed about.
I asked them
society.
because I was I think it was in the 2015 general election why they voted that way.
And they didn't know. It was just because
Yeah.
they always had. It's like, look at what the policies are. Think about what your values are and go with the party that matches that most.
A few places
Don't just blindly
that
vote
I
that
would
way.
recommend. I think it's voteforpolicies.com and what's it called?
I think that's happening more because of the political awareness of the younger generation now. So that people are actually paying attention now. But don't just go along with the crowd. Think about what you believe is right and match it up.
There's another one that tells you the party that you're most matching up with and then shows you issues that you particularly stand with them, but I can't remember. I remember Vote for Policies, that's one. Basically a big questionnaire about issues that you care about, and it tells you what party most matches up with what you believe. So if you are unsure, because
I like those
the
blind
news
tests.
distorts a lot of things.
I like those blind
it is
tests.
a blind test. The news distorts a lot of things. Wanting to know just based on your personal beliefs what party you would stand with.
Take a test.
Yeah.
Do the political compass test.
The political compass isn't the most accurate thing, but it's pretty good.
But find one of, like, is it Vote for Policies that you said?
Yeah, that's...
answer all the questions and then hopefully not be too surprised by what the answer comes out as.
there is
If you
another
are,
one that has
think about changing your vote.
multiple versions for different countries, but I can't remember what it's called. There's a James Foreman video that says about if you don't know who to vote for, then whatever. It's called Whom Should I Vote For by Jay Foreman. He does a series called Politics and Boring, and that's generally good if you are interested in that and find the whole news stuff or all the boring paper stuff and the manifestos boring.
I think it's very encouraging for the future that there is so much engagement through social media of politics nowadays, because it's tending to be the younger generation that are utilising that, and it is a reaction to the established media, in that they can. Politics unboring. You know, it's like I think we may well see a shift,
Yeah,
but it's going to take a while.
the old fart style.
Yeah.
Sorry, old fart. And we were trying to wrap up.
Yeah, let's do it, because I've got a show all week and it's going to be yeah.
I've been Firebolt.
And I've been the Orbiter.
This has been an extra long episode of Breaking Bollocks on UK politics. Bye.
See you next time.
Thanks for watching. We'd really appreciate if you support us on various things, obviously subscribing on YouTube, Twitch, following us on Twitter or Facebook. We have a Discord server that you can join and talk to us and other people, and a website where you can check out blog posts.
And obviously this isn't free for us to run, so if you'd like to support us financially, we have a Patreon page where you can donate monthly and get subscriber rewards. We also have a Stream Elements tipping page where you can make one-off donations. The links are all in the description.
Farewell.
See you next time.